Get your black ass out of this car right now!
Sir, my family is just passing through.
I said get out! Don't make me say it again!
Please, my kids are right here.
Your kids? In this car? With your money? He laughed. Cold. Ugly. That's real cute. Who'd you rob? The deputy spat on the ground next to Owen's shoes.
You make my skin crawl. Rolling through here like you own the place. You don't belong here. You never will. Owen Underwood stood on that gravel shoulder with his palms facing the sky. Silent. Still. That deputy just made the worst mistake of his career, because the man he's humiliating carries a federal badge that outranks everyone in his department. Let me take you back to where this all started. About 6 hours before that deputy ever laid eyes on Owen Underwood. It was a Friday morning in early July, the kind of morning where the air already felt thick before the sun cleared the rooftops. Alexandria, Virginia. A quiet neighborhood with trimmed hedges and sprinklers clicking across front lawns. Owen was in the driveway by 6:30. He had the tailgate of a rented black Chevy Tahoe popped open, and he was loading the last of the bags. 2 rolling suitcases, a soft cooler packed with sandwiches, apple slices, and juice boxes that Denise had been up since 5 preparing. A canvas tote stuffed with board games and coloring books. He checked each bag twice, shifted them so nothing would slide on the curves. That was Owen, the kind of man who checked tire pressure before a road trip, the kind who printed the directions even though the GPS worked fine. He folded the printout into a clear plastic sleeve and tucked it into the center console. Denise came out the front door holding 2 travel mugs of coffee. She was still in her scrubs from the night before, 36-hour shift at the children's hospital. She hadn't slept, but she smiled when she handed him the mug. You triple-checked the cooler yet? Only double. Give me a minute. She laughed. It was the kind of laugh that comes from knowing someone so well you can predict their next sentence. 14 years of marriage. 2 kids, a mortgage, date nights that turned into falling asleep on the couch by 9:30. Nothing glamorous, just real. Zoe appeared at the front door next, 12 years old, earbuds already in, a thick paperback tucked under her arm. She climbed into the back seat without a word, buckled in, and disappeared into her book. She had her mother's focus. Then came Caleb, 8 years old, bouncing. Literally bouncing off the porch steps with a stuffed elephant under one arm and a bag of gummy bears in the other. Dad, are we gonna see real bears? Maybe from a distance, buddy. Can I pet one? Absolutely not. What if it's a small one? Owen zipped the tailgate shut and crouched down to Caleb's level. He fixed the collar on his son's shirt, brushed a crumb off his chin. No bears, no petting, but I'll let you pick the first trail. Caleb grinned so wide his missing front tooth showed. He climbed in next to his sister, who didn't look up from her book. By 7:15, they were on the road. Owen drove the way he did everything. Steady, smooth, both hands on the wheel. He signaled every lane change a full 3 seconds early. He let faster drivers pass without a word. Denise leaned her seat back and closed her eyes. She deserved the rest. The first 2 hours felt like any family road trip. Caleb asked, "Are we there yet?" 4 times before they crossed the county line. Zoe finished 2 chapters and started a 3rd. The playlist shuffled between old Motown and whatever Caleb had been obsessed with that week. Then they turned off I-81. The highway peeled away and the road narrowed to 2 lanes. The strip malls disappeared. The chain restaurants disappeared. What replaced them was farmland, fence posts, and silence. Long stretches of nothing but hay rolls and tree lines. Owen noticed the change first. He always did. A gas station with a hand-painted sign. A pickup truck in the lot with a bumper sticker that made Denise reach over and quietly lock her door. A roadside diner with a porch full of men who all turned their heads when the Tahoe rolled past. Nobody said anything inside the car. Owen adjusted the rearview mirror. Not to check the road, to check his kids. Caleb was asleep, mouth open, the stuffed elephant tucked under his chin. Zoe had stopped reading. She was looking out the window and her jaw was tight. She'd noticed, too. They were in Barton County now, population just under 12,000, 95% white. A place where the sheriff's department had received 3 racial profiling complaints in the past 2 years. All 3 were dismissed, internally. Owen didn't know that yet, but he was about to learn it the hard way. The cabin was 30 minutes away. They almost made it. It started with a flash in the rearview mirror. Owen saw the patrol car first, white and green, Barton County Sheriff's Office printed across the hood. It pulled out from behind a tree line about a quarter-mile back and settled in right behind the Tahoe. Owen checked his speedometer. 43 in a 45 zone. He wasn't speeding. He hadn't been speeding since they left the highway. He kept driving, both hands on the wheel, eyes forward. The patrol car stayed behind them, 1 car length back, then half a car length. Close enough that Owen could see the driver in his mirror. White male, mirrored sunglasses, chewing something. A full mile passed like that. No lights, no siren. Just a county deputy riding the bumper of a rented SUV on a 2-lane road in the middle of nowhere. Denise opened her eyes. She didn't say anything. She didn't have to. She looked at the mirror, then at Owen, and her hand moved slowly to the armrest where her phone was sitting. Owen gave the smallest shake of his head. Not yet. Then the lights came on. No siren, just the red and blue strobing across the back window. Caleb stirred in his sleep but didn't wake up. Zoe looked up from her book. "Dad?" "It's fine, sweetheart. Just stay in your seat." Owen signaled, pulled onto the gravel shoulder, put the car in park, turned off the engine, placed both hands on top of the steering wheel where they could be seen. He'd done this before, not as a criminal, as a black man driving through a county he didn't live in. The steps were automatic. Engine off, hands visible, voice calm. Don't reach for anything until told. Don't make sudden movements. Don't give them a reason. His father taught him those steps when he was 16. His father learned them from his father before that. 3 generations of the same lesson. The same quiet survival guide passed down like a family recipe nobody wanted to cook. 30 seconds passed. Then a minute. The deputy sat in his car, running the plates maybe, or just letting Owen wait, letting the silence do its work. Finally, the door opened. Boots on gravel. Slow steps. The kind of walk that says, "I'm in no hurry because I'm the one with the badge." Deputy Wade Conley appeared at the driver's window. Mid-40s. Buzz cut going gray at the temples. A jaw that looked like it had never been unclenched. He rested one hand on the doorframe and leaned in. His eyes swept across the interior of the vehicle. Owen, Denise, the kids, the suitcases, the cooler, the brochure in the visor. He took his time, like he was inventorying livestock. "License and registration." Owen spoke evenly. "My wallet is in my right front pocket. I'm going to reach for it now." "I didn't ask for a speech, just hand it over." Owen reached slowly, pulled out his wallet, removed his driver's license and the rental agreement from the glove box, handed both through the window. Conley looked at the license, looked at Owen, looked at the license again. "Virginia plates on a rental. Long way from home." "Yes, sir. We're heading to a cabin about 25 minutes from here. Family vacation." Conley's mouth twitched, something between a smirk and a sneer. "Vacation, right." He held the license up to the light like he was checking a counterfeit bill. Then he tapped it against his palm. "You know why I pulled you over?" "No, sir." "You failed to signal a lane change back at mile marker 12. Owen paused. He chose his next words carefully. "Officer, this road is a single lane in each direction. I haven't changed lanes since I left the highway." Something shifted in Conley's face. The smirk disappeared. What replaced it was harder, meaner. "Are you arguing with me?" "No, sir, I'm just stating because it sure sounds like you're telling me I don't know what I saw." Denise leaned forward slightly. "Officer, we have our cabin booking confirmation if that helps. We're just—" "Ma'am," Conley didn't look at her. "I'm talking to the driver, not you." The radio on Conley's shoulder crackled. He tilted his head and muttered something into it. Owen couldn't make out the words, but the tone was relaxed, almost casual, like he was ordering lunch. 2 minutes later, a second patrol car pulled up behind the first. Deputy Travis Fulton. Younger, bigger, wide across the shoulders like a man who spent too much time in a weight room and not enough time reading the Constitution. He climbed out and walked straight to the passenger side of the Tahoe. He didn't say a word, just bent down and shone his flashlight through the window. Across the back seat. Across Zoe. Across Caleb, who was now awake, blinking against the light, confused. "What's in the cooler?" Fulton asked. Denise answered without turning. "Sandwiches, juice boxes, snacks for the kids." "Open it." "It's just food, officer." "I said open it." Conley was back at Owen's window now. He tossed the license onto Owen's lap, didn't hand it, tossed it, like it was trash. "Step out of the vehicle." "Officer, may I ask what this is about? I haven't broken any—" "Step out, now!" Owen exhaled. He unbuckled his seatbelt slowly, opened the door, stepped onto the gravel, stood with his hands slightly away from his body, palms out. Connolly circled him, slow, looking him up and down. "Nice shoes, nice watch, nice car." He stopped in front of Owen and tilted his head. "Lot of nice things for a guy driving through Barton County on a Friday afternoon." Owen said nothing. "Where do you work?" "I work for the federal government." Connolly snorted. "Federal government? Sure you do." He looked over his shoulder at Fulton. "You hear that? Works for the federal government." Fulton grinned, the kind of grin that made Owen's jaw tighten, even though his face didn't show it. "What division?" Connolly asked. "I'd rather not say, sir. It's not relevant to this stop." "Oh, it's not relevant." Connolly's voice dropped low, mocking. "Everything about you is relevant right now. You're in my county, in my jurisdiction, and I decide what's relevant." He stepped closer, close enough that Owen could smell the tobacco dip tucked in his lower lip. "You want to play the quiet game? Fine. We can do this the hard way." Connolly turned to Fulton and nodded once. "Search the vehicle." Owen's voice stayed level. "Officer, I do not consent to a search." Connolly smiled. It was the worst kind of smile, the kind that said, "Your consent doesn't matter to me. I've got probable cause. You're driving a rental vehicle with out-of-state registration through a known corridor. That's all I need." It wasn't true. Owen knew it wasn't true. Probable cause required specific, articulable facts suggesting criminal activity. A rental car and a black family on a highway didn't qualify. But Connolly didn't care about the law, not today, not with this family. "Go ahead, Travis. Pop the trunk." Fulton walked to the back of the Tahoe. Owen heard the latch click, then the tailgate swinging open. Then the sound of suitcases being pulled out and dropped onto the gravel. 1, 2, 3. The cooler hit the ground next. The lid popped open. Sandwiches and juice boxes spilled across the dirt. Denise closed her eyes. Her hand was shaking, but she kept it still in her lap. Zoe reached over and took her mother's hand. She didn't say anything, she just held it. Owen stood perfectly still on the shoulder of that road. A decorated federal agent, a 15-year veteran, a man who had led counterintelligence operations against foreign adversaries on American soil. And right now, he was being treated like a suspect because of the color of his skin. He could have stopped it. He could have said one sentence and ended everything. But he knew what happens when a black man reaches for a badge during a traffic stop. He knew the math. He'd worked the cases. He'd read the reports. He'd testified at the hearings. So he waited. And that patience was about to cost Deputy Wade Conley everything. Fulton was pulling everything out of the trunk now, not searching, destroying. He unzipped the first suitcase and dumped it upside down onto the gravel. Denise's clothes, sundresses, a swimsuit, a silk blouse she'd packed for dinner at the lodge, all of it in the dirt. He kicked through the pile with his boot, picked up a toiletry bag, unzipped it, shook it out. Shampoo bottles and a tube of sunscreen tumbled across the road shoulder. The second suitcase, the kids' clothes, little folded shirts, Caleb's swim trunks with the dinosaurs on them, Zoe's journal, the one she wrote in every night before bed. Fulton flipped through it, read a page, and tossed it onto the pile. "Nothing here," Fulton called out. Conley didn't seem to care. He wasn't looking for anything specific. He never was. "Keep going," he said. "Check under the seats. Check the spare tire. Check everything." Owen stood motionless on the shoulder. His hands hadn't moved. His face hadn't changed. But inside his chest, something was pulling tight, like a wire being wound around a spool, one slow turn at a time. Conley walked a circle around him, slow, predatory, the way a man walks when he knows nobody's going to stop him. "You know what I think?" Conley said. He wasn't asking. "I think you borrowed this car. I think those aren't your bags. I think you're running something through my county and you figured nobody would look twice at a family with kids." Owen's voice came out flat, controlled. "That's not what's happening here, officer." "Oh yeah? Then why won't you tell me where you work? Why won't you give me a straight answer?" "I've answered every question you've asked." "You've answered with nothing." Conley's voice rose. He jabbed a finger toward Owen's chest. Not touching, just close enough to make the threat clear. "You stand there with that calm little face like you're better than me, like you're smarter than me." He leaned in, close enough that Owen could see the veins in his neck. "Let me tell you something. You're not better than anyone out here, not in this county, not on this road. You're just another guy I pulled over, and right now, you're about 2 seconds from seeing the back of my cruiser." Fulton had moved to the back seat now. He opened Caleb's door. The boy flinched and pulled his legs up onto the seat. "Need to check under the seats," Fulton said. Not to Caleb, to no one in particular, like the child wasn't even there. Denise turned around. "He's 8 years old. Can you please just—" "Ma'am, stay facing forward." Fulton reached under Caleb's seat. His arm brushed against the boy's leg. Caleb squeezed himself against the opposite door. His stuffed elephant fell to the floor. Fulton didn't pick it up. He stepped on it as he moved to check under Zoe's seat. Zoe pulled her knees to her chest. She looked straight ahead. Her jaw was locked. Her eyes were dry, but the muscles around them were tight. She was holding everything in. 12 years old and already learning the same lesson her father learned, and his father before him. Stay still. Stay quiet. Survive. Conley wasn't done. He walked to the front of the Tahoe and popped the hood. Looked inside like he knew what he was searching for. He didn't. He poked at a cable, pulled it, let it snap back. "Federal government," he muttered. "That's rich." He slammed the hood shut and turned back to Owen. "All right, here's what's going to happen. I'm calling in a K-9 unit. If that dog hits on anything at all, you're going to jail tonight. Your wife's going to jail, and those kids are going to spend the night with social services." Owen blinked. Once. That was the only reaction he allowed himself. "Officer, there are no drugs in this car. There have never been drugs in this car. We are a family, on vacation. That is all." "Then you've got nothing to worry about, do you?" Conley smiled again. That same smile. The one that made Owen's stomach turn. Not because he was afraid, because he'd seen that smile before. On the faces of men who wore badges and used them as weapons. Men who confused authority with ownership. Owen knew the K-9 trick. He'd studied it. Dogs can be prompted to alert on command. A handler taps a panel, shifts their weight, gives a micro-signal, and the dog sits. That's a hit. That's the probable cause. And now you're in handcuffs while they tear your car apart for something that was never there. He'd prosecuted cases built on exactly that kind of fraud. Denise's hand moved again, slowly, quietly. Her phone was in her lap now. The camera was recording. She angled the screen away from the window, but the microphone was catching everything. Every word, every threat, every silence. Conley walked back to his patrol car. He leaned against the hood and made a radio call. Owen could hear pieces of it through the open window. "Got a rental. Family of 4. Won't cooperate. Requesting K-9. Won't cooperate." Owen had answered every question. He had complied with every command. He had stepped out of his vehicle when ordered. He had stood still while his family's belongings were thrown onto a dirt road. And in Conley's report, that would become won't cooperate. Fulton was leaning against the Tahoe now, arms crossed, watching Owen like a guard watching a prisoner in a yard. He hadn't said much. He didn't need to. His size said enough. His silence said enough. The way he positioned himself between Owen and the car, between a father and his children, said everything. The sun was lower now. Long shadows stretched across the road. The air smelled like hot asphalt and cut hay. Somewhere in the distance, a crow called out. Then nothing. Owen stood in that nothing, minutes passing like hours. His shirt stuck to his back with sweat. His knees ached from standing still on uneven gravel. But he didn't shift. He didn't sigh. He didn't give them a single thing to interpret as resistance. Because he knew something they didn't. Not just who he was, but what was in the trunk. The one bag Fulton hadn't opened yet. The black canvas work bag, tucked beneath the spare tire cover. The one with the zipper pull wrapped in black tape so it wouldn't rattle. Inside that bag was a badge case. Inside that case was a gold shield with 3 words stamped across the top. Federal Bureau of Investigation. And beneath the badge, a credential card with a photograph, a name, and a title. Supervisory Special Agent Owen Underwood, Counterintelligence Division, 15 years of service, 2 commendations from the director, a security clearance higher than anyone in this county had ever held or ever would. But Owen hadn't reached for that bag. Not yet. Because he understood something that Conley would never understand. A badge should not be the reason a man is treated with dignity, and the moment he flashed it, it would become the only reason. So he waited. He let the camera run. He let Conley talk. He let the evidence build. And it was building. A third vehicle appeared on the road, white and green. Barton County Sheriff's Office. But this one was different. No light bar on top. An unmarked cruiser with a single blue dash light flashing behind the windshield. Sheriff Garland Hobbs himself, responding to Conley's radio call about a suspicious vehicle with an uncooperative driver. Hobbs stepped out, mid-60s, silver hair, pressed uniform with stars on the collar. He walked the way elected men walk, chest first, chin up. He surveyed the scene, the luggage on the gravel, the clothes in the dirt, the children sitting stiff in the back seat, the black man standing alone on the shoulder with his palms facing the sky. "What do we got, Wade?" Conley straightened up. "Rental vehicle, out-of-state tags. Driver claims he's on vacation, says he works for the federal government but won't specify. Wouldn't consent to a search." Hobbs looked at Owen, looked him up and down the same way Conley had. Then he turned back to his deputy. "You run him?" "Clean record, no warrants." Hobbs nodded, chewed the inside of his cheek. Then he said the words that would later be played in a federal courtroom in front of a judge, a jury, and 14 cameras. "Clean record don't mean clean hands. Keep going, and find me something." In the back seat of the Tahoe, Zoe reached down and picked up Caleb's stuffed elephant from the floor. She brushed the boot print off its face. She handed it back to her brother without a word. Caleb held it with both hands. He looked out the window at his father, standing alone on the gravel, hands open, palms to the sky. And that's when Fulton found the bag. Fulton pulled the black canvas bag from beneath the spare tire cover. It was heavier than he expected. He set it on the bumper and unzipped it. He froze. His hand was still on the zipper. His mouth was half open, but nothing came out. Inside the bag, sitting in a molded foam insert, was a holstered sidearm. Standard issue Glock 19M. Next to it, a stack of case folders marked with red classification tabs. And on top of everything, centered like it had been placed there on purpose, a black leather badge case. Fulton didn't touch it. He stared at it. Then he turned his head toward Conley. "Wade." Something in his voice made Conley stop mid-stride. It wasn't loud. It was the opposite. It was the sound of a man who had just realized he was standing at the edge of something he couldn't walk back from. "Wade, you need to come look at this." Conley walked to the trunk. He looked down at the bag, at the gun, at the folders, at the badge case. "What the hell is—" "Open it," Owen said. His voice came from behind them, still calm, still steady. But it's different now. There was something underneath it. Not anger, authority. "Pick up that badge case and open it." Conley looked at Owen, then back at the case. He reached in and flipped it open with his thumb. Gold shield, polished, reflecting the last of the afternoon's sun. 3 words stamped across the top in block letters. Federal Bureau of Investigation. Below the shield, a credential card behind a clear plastic window. A photograph, a name, a title. Supervisory Special Agent Owen Underwood, Counterintelligence Division, Washington Field Office. Conley's hand dropped to his side. The badge case stayed open on the bumper. The gold caught the light and threw it back into his face like an accusation. Nobody moved. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. The only sound was the engine of Hobbs's cruiser idling 20 feet away and the faint tick of the Tahoe's cooling exhaust. Fulton took a step back, then another. His hand came off his belt. His shoulders dropped. He looked like a man who had just watched the ground open beneath his feet. Hobbs walked over. He looked down at the badge. He read the name. He read the title. Then he closed his eyes. Just for a moment. Just long enough to understand exactly what had happened. And exactly what was about to happen next. Owen stepped forward. Not fast, not aggressive. The way a man moves when he doesn't need to prove anything to anyone in front of him. He picked up the badge case, held it open at chest height, turned it so Conley could see it clearly, then Fulton, then Hobbs. My name is Supervisory Special Agent Owen Underwood. I am a 15-year veteran of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I hold a top-secret security clearance with sensitive compartmented information access. His voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. For the past 45 minutes, your deputies have conducted an illegal traffic stop without probable cause. They have performed a warrantless search of my vehicle without my consent. They have physically intimidated me. They have threatened my wife. They have terrorized my children. And they have made racially motivated statements that are now recorded on my wife's phone and on your own body cameras. Conley opened his mouth. Nothing came out. He closed it again. His face had gone the color of an old newspaper. Owen pulled his phone from his pocket. He dialed a number, put it on speaker, held it out so everyone could hear. 2 rings. Then a voice. Sharp, professional. The voice of someone who runs a floor of federal agents. Underwood, what's going on? Lorraine, this is Owen. I'm on a county road in Barton County, Virginia. I've been illegally detained by 2 sheriff's deputies and the county sheriff is on scene. I'm requesting the Bureau dispatch agents to my location immediately. I also need you to open a civil rights investigation under Title 18, Sections 241 and 242. Silence on the line. 1 beat. 2. Then, ASAC. Lorraine Garrett's voice came back, cold as January steel. Agents are en route. ETA 35 minutes. Tell every officer on that scene to preserve all body camera footage, all dash camera footage, and all radio communications from the past hour. Nothing gets deleted. Nothing gets overwritten. If a single frame goes missing, I will personally file obstruction charges. Is that understood? Owen held the phone toward Hobbs. She's asking you, Sheriff. Hobbs looked at the phone, then at Owen, then at his 2 deputies. One white-faced and frozen, the other staring at the ground like he wanted it to swallow him. Understood, Hobbs said. His voice cracked on the second syllable. Owen lowered the phone. Deputy Conley. Conley looked up. His eyes were glassy. The arrogance was gone. The swagger was gone. What was left was a man standing in the wreckage of his own making, watching his career and his freedom shrink to the size of a gold shield on a car bumper. I'm not the person you need to explain yourself to anymore. Owen turned his back on all 3 of them. He walked to the rear passenger door of the Tahoe, opened it, crouched down on one knee. Caleb was still holding the stuffed elephant with both hands. His eyes were red, but he wasn't crying anymore. He was watching his father the way children watch their parents when they need to believe that someone is still in control. Owen put his hand on his son's knee. It's over, buddy. We're okay. 32 minutes later, 2 black Chevrolet Suburbans rolled up the county road in a cloud of dust. No sirens, no lights, just tinted windows and federal plates. 4 agents stepped out, dark suits, credentials clipped to their belts. The kind of men who don't introduce themselves with a handshake. They introduce themselves with a badge and a silence that says everything after this moment is being documented. Special Agent Nolan Briggs led the team. Tall, clean-shaven, the kind of face that never changes expression regardless of what it's looking at. He walked past the patrol cars, past the luggage still scattered across the gravel, past the pile of children's clothes sitting in the dirt. He stopped in front of Owen, extended his hand. "Agent Underwood, you all right?" "My family's in the car." "We'll take care of them." Briggs turned to one of his agents. "Get water and blankets to the vehicle, now!" Then Briggs turned to Hobbs. The sheriff was standing next to his cruiser with his arms crossed, trying to look like a man in charge, but the sweat on his forehead told a different story. "Sheriff Hobbs, I'm Special Agent Nolan Briggs, FBI Civil Rights Unit. As of this moment, this scene is under federal jurisdiction. Your deputy's body camera footage, dash camera footage, and all radio logs from the past 2 hours are now federal evidence." Hobbs straightened up. "Now hold on. This was a routine traffic stop that got a little what, Sheriff?" Hobbs didn't finish the sentence. Briggs stepped closer. Not aggressive, just close enough that Hobbs had to tilt his chin up to maintain eye contact. "I drove past a pile of children's clothing on the side of a public road. I saw a woman sitting in a vehicle holding a phone that's been recording for the past 40 minutes. I have an agent, a supervisory special agent, who tells me he was physically handled, racially profiled, and threatened with false arrest in front of his 8-year-old son." He paused. "Which part of that sounds routine to you?" Hobbs's mouth opened, then closed. He looked at Conley. Conley was leaning against his patrol car with his head down. His hat was off. He was holding it in both hands like a man holding a steering wheel on a car that was already off the cliff. Briggs walked to Conley next. "Deputy Conley, I need your body camera, right now." Conley unclipped it from his chest. His fingers fumbled with the latch. He handed it over without looking up. "Your service weapon." Conley's head snapped up. "My weapon? I didn't—" "Your weapon, deputy." Conley unholstered his sidearm, dropped the magazine, cleared the chamber, placed it on the hood of his patrol car with both hands. The metal clicked against the paint in the quiet. "You are hereby placed on immediate unpaid suspension pending a federal civil rights investigation. You are not to contact any witnesses. You are not to delete any communications, and you are not to leave Barton County without notifying this office. Do you understand?" Conley nodded. He didn't speak. His jaw was working like he was chewing something that wouldn't go down. Briggs turned to Fulton. Same instructions, same tone. Fulton complied faster. He didn't argue. He didn't look at anyone. He placed his weapon on the hood, unclipped his camera, and stood with his hands at his sides like a man waiting to be told where to go. Briggs walked back to Hobbs. "Sheriff, your department is now subject to a federal pattern and practice review. Every traffic stop, every arrest, every complaint filed in the past 5 years, all of it." Hobbs's face went gray. "You can't just—" "I just did." Denise stepped out of the Tahoe. She walked to Briggs and handed him her phone. He watched 20 seconds of the video. The audio was sharp, clean. Conley's voice filled the silence. "People like you always got some story, some excuse. Makes me sick just looking at you." Briggs looked at the phone, looked at Denise, looked at the 2 children sitting in the back seat of a rental car on the side of a dirt road in Barton County, Virginia. "Ma'am, I'm going to need a copy of this. It's evidence now." "I know," Denise said. "That's why I recorded it." An agent brought water bottles and a thin blanket to the car. Zoe took a bottle but didn't drink it. She held it in her lap and stared out the window. Owen walked to the back of the Tahoe. The suitcases were still on the ground. Denise's blouse was in the dirt. Caleb's swim trunks were next to a shampoo bottle with a cracked lid. He picked up each item, one by one, folded them, placed them back in the suitcases, brushed the gravel off the fabric with his palm. Denise appeared beside him. She didn't say anything. She just started folding too, side by side, in silence, putting their family back together, one piece at a time. When the last bag was loaded, Owen closed the tailgate. He put his hand on the small of Denise's back. She leaned into him, just slightly, just enough. They drove to the cabin that night. The GPS said 26 minutes. Nobody spoke for the first 20. The vacation continued. But something in that car had changed. Something in that family had shifted. Not broken, shifted. The way a bone heals stronger after a fracture, but never quite forgets the crack. The investigation began before the Underwood family even reached the cabin. ASAC. Lorraine Garrett had already contacted the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division from her office in Washington. By Saturday morning, a joint FBI-DOJ task force had been formally assembled. By Monday, 2 federal investigators were sitting in the Barton County Sheriff's Office with a subpoena for 5 years of traffic stop records, internal complaint files, and body camera archives. Sheriff Hobbs tried to stall. He cited staffing issues, server maintenance, a records clerk on vacation. The investigators didn't blink. They came back with a federal judge's order that made the subpoena look polite. The records arrived in boxes, 14 of them, stacked on folding tables in a conference room at the FBI field office in Richmond. What those boxes revealed was worse than anyone expected. Deputy Wade Conley had conducted over 300 traffic stops in the past 3 years. Federal analysts ran the numbers. 71% of those stops involved Black or Latino drivers. In a county that was 95% white, 71%. The body camera footage told the rest of the story. Stop after stop, the same pattern, the same language, the same smirk. A black truck driver pulled over for a broken tail light that was working perfectly on the footage. A Latino couple asked where they really came from during a seatbelt check. A black teenager detained for 45 minutes on a rural road for matching a description that was never logged in any dispatch call. None of those stops resulted in charges. None of them. Because there was never anything to charge. The stops weren't about enforcement. They were about control. About a man with a badge and a 2-lane road and the belief that certain people didn't belong on it. And every single complaint filed against Conley, 3 in 2 years, had landed on Sheriff Garland Hobbs's desk. And every single one had been stamped the same way. Unfounded. Case closed. Hobbs never interviewed a witness, never reviewed footage, never asked Conley a single question. He just signed the form and filed it in a cabinet that the investigators found locked in a storage closet behind the break room. By week 3, the story went public. Attorney Pamela Royce, representing the Underwood family, held a press conference on the steps of the federal courthouse in Richmond. She was precise, measured. Every sentence built on the one before it like bricks in a wall. She played Denise's video. The clip ran 44 seconds. Conley's voice, clear as church bells on a Sunday morning. People like you always got some story, some excuse. Makes me sick just looking at you. Every major network picked it up. CNN, MS, NBC, Fox, ABC. The clip played on morning shows and evening broadcasts and late-night desks. It trended for 6 straight days. Not because it was shocking, because it was familiar. Because millions of people watched it and thought, that happened to me, or that happened to someone I love. Community protests formed outside the Barton County Courthouse. Dozens at first, then hundreds. Black residents, white residents, teachers and mechanics and retired veterans holding signs that said the same thing in different words. Accountability. Not tomorrow. Now. The grand jury convened in federal court 5 weeks after the traffic stop. Deputy Wade Conley was indicted on 2 counts of deprivation of rights under color of law. Title 18, Section 242. The indictment cited the Underwood stop specifically and referenced the pattern of racially targeted enforcement revealed in the body camera archives. Deputy Travis Fulton was indicted on 1 count as an accessory. He had participated in the illegal search. He had physically entered the vehicle where 2 minor children were seated. He had made no effort to intervene, to question, or to stop what he knew was wrong. Sheriff Garland Hobbs was indicted on 3 counts of obstruction of justice, for burying the complaints, for protecting Conley, for building a department where racial profiling wasn't a failure of policy. It was the policy. The trial lasted 11 days. Judge Evelyn Thornton presided. Federal Courthouse, Richmond. The prosecution's case was surgical. Body camera footage from the Underwood stop. Denise's phone recording. Statistical analysis of 3 years of traffic stop data. Testimony from the black truck driver. From the Latino couple. From the teenager who stood on the side of a road for 45 minutes while a deputy searched his car and found nothing. One by one, they sat in that witness box and told the same story. Different roads, different days. Same deputy, same words, same sneer. Conley's defense attorney argued that his client was conducting legitimate law enforcement in a high-traffic corridor, that the stops were based on professional judgment, that the language on the recordings was unfortunate but not criminal. The jury didn't buy it. Wade Conley, guilty on all counts, sentenced to 42 months in federal prison, lifetime ban from law enforcement anywhere in the United States. His badge was confiscated in the courtroom. The judge ordered it placed into evidence as an exhibit, not returned. Travis Fulton, guilty, 24 months in federal prison, permanent decertification. He would never wear a badge again. Garland Hobbs, guilty of obstruction on all 3 counts, 18 months, forced resignation. His pension was frozen pending civil proceedings. 3 officers in the Barton County Sheriff's Office resigned before the DOJ review was complete. No statements, no press conferences, just empty desks and turned-in badges. The Department of Justice entered a consent decree with Barton County. The terms were non-negotiable. Mandatory bias training for every officer. Independent federal oversight of all traffic stops for 5 years. Body camera compliance audits every 90 days. A civilian review board with subpoena power appointed by the court, not the county. The Underwood family's civil lawsuit settled 4 months after the criminal trial. The amount was undisclosed. But Owen and Denise insisted on one condition that had nothing to do with money. Barton County would fund a scholarship. Criminal justice students from underrepresented communities. Full tuition, books, housing, 4 students per year. The first class of scholars began that fall. One of them was a 20-year-old woman from a town 60 miles south of Barton County. She told a reporter she'd applied because she wanted to become the kind of officer she'd never seen growing up. The kind who protects everyone, not just the people who look like him. 1 year later, Owen Underwood rented the same black Chevy Tahoe. Same model, same color. He didn't plan it that way. The rental company just handed him the keys, and he looked at Denise and she looked at him, and neither of them said anything for a moment. Then she shrugged. Guess we're doing this. They packed the car the same way. Cooler in the back. Suitcases stacked behind the second row. Board games and coloring books in the canvas tote. Denise made the sandwiches at 5 in the morning again. Apple slices, juice boxes, the same playlist on the stereo. But some things were different. Caleb didn't bounce off the porch steps this time. He walked. He climbed into his seat, buckled himself in, and held his stuffed elephant in his lap. He'd named it Brave. He told his teacher that it's show and tell 3 months ago. She asked him why. He said because sometimes being brave means you just hold on and don't let go. He was 9 now, still quiet about what happened, but healing. The therapist said he was healing. Zoe sat in her usual spot, earbuds in, a new book, thicker than last year's. She'd written an essay about the traffic stop for her school's social studies class. She titled it 10 and 2. It was about the things black fathers teach their children that other fathers never have to. It won a regional award. Her teacher framed the certificate and hung it in the hallway outside the classroom. Zoe asked her not to. She said the essay wasn't supposed to be an achievement. It was supposed to be a record. She was 13 now. She had her mother's focus and her father's stillness. And somewhere behind her eyes, she carried a weight that no 13-year-old should know the shape of. They drove south on I-81, turned off onto the same 2-lane road, past the same gas station, the same diner, the same fence posts and hay rolls and tree lines. They entered Barton County. Caleb looked out the window, his hand tightened on the elephant, then loosened. A patrol car passed going the opposite direction. New paint, new decals, a new deputy behind the wheel. Caleb watched it pass. He didn't flinch. Denise noticed. She reached back and squeezed his knee without turning around. He smiled, just a little. They made it to the cabin in 26 minutes. No stops, no lights, no sirens. Owen carried the bags inside while Caleb ran straight to the porch and looked out at the mountains. The same mountains they were supposed to see last year. The ones they almost didn't get to see. "Dad, can I pick the first trail?" Owen set the suitcase down. He looked at his son standing on that porch. Small frame against a wide sky. Stuffed elephant tucked under one arm. "You can pick them all, buddy." Owen went back to work the following Monday. He'd been promoted 3 months earlier, assistant special agent in charge. His office was bigger now, his caseload was heavier. But he didn't talk about the promotion much. He didn't talk about the incident at all. Not at work. What he did instead was volunteer. He asked the Bureau to let him lead community outreach in rural Virginia counties. Not the kind that involves press releases and photo ops. The kind that involves sitting in a church basement on a Tuesday night with 15 local officers and talking about de-escalation, about implicit bias, about the distance between the oath they took and the choices they make on a 2-lane road at 4 in the afternoon. He didn't do it for recognition. He didn't do it because the Bureau asked him to. He did it because he never wants another father to stand on the side of a road with his palms facing the sky while his son learns what fear looks like from the back seat of a car. Owen Underwood got justice because he carried a gold shield in a black canvas bag. Because one phone call could put federal agents on a county road in 32 minutes. Because the system recognized him as one of its own. But what about the father who doesn't carry a badge? What about the man driving the same road, in the same rental, with the same kids in the back seat, but without 3 letters behind his name? Does he get the same phone call, the same investigation, the same 11-day trial with 14 cameras in the courtroom? Or does he get a warning, a record, a story he tells his son that becomes the story his son tells his son? And if this story hit you the way it hit me, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. One more thing. What does real accountability look like to you? Is a prison sentence enough? Or does it take something deeper? Something that changes the next stop before it even happens? Let me know.